counting down on 3, 2, 1. Okay, ladies and gents, I think we are live. Of course, we will know that after like 40 seconds until YouTube wakes up. But hey, guys, welcome to the Discovery talk show, DiscoCast, if you want to call it that way. Today, I'm joined by Justin.
Hello, hello.
It only took you half a second. I'm proud of you.
Only half a second.
That's good. For context, I specifically had to tell Justin that please don't do the thing where what other of my, talk show bees used to do is like I would introduce them and it would catch them off guard and it would take like 5 seconds for them to respond. It's like chirp, chirp, chirp. Anyway, welcome guys. Welcome to the 22 people currently watching the live stream. Welcome to everyone who posted in the forums under the AMA End of Gallia thread and are currently watching this video post-upload. And holy hell, take it away, Justin. Tell us what the hell is happening? Because I haven't played Disco for 2 years, and neither have many people who are currently watching this video, so please tell us what the hell just happened.
Okay, so within the past 2 years, where I should really start with this is about 10 months ago, because 10
Start
months
what just
ago...
happened like this week, just so we have the context.
Okay, that's fair. So this week I think it was actually more in the realm of 2 weeks ago now, but we announced that the Gallic War would be ending this August, and this August we will be holding. Originally, it was going to be two. We've expanded it to three. It might even end up being 4 events this month, in which the Gallic War is concluded. Uh, Need to bot up. We're currently sitting in a system with a bit of radiation here, so bear
And
with
the
me.
worst part about that is that I think the people currently watching the live stream can actually see it, but my whole integrity thing is currently cut off because I'm running it window mode.
I
So
can I can keep you updated if you're going to
or
explode or
don't,
anything. It's
or
pretty
don't.
good.
Oh, I'm currently down to 69. Nice nanobots. Also,
Anyway,
also welcome to the live stream, Snake Lancer.
yeah, yes, welcome to the live stream. So, what is currently happening? We are ending the Gallic War this month with a series of events, somewhere in the realm of 3 to 4, depending on the way things unfold. Uh, that's what's currently happening. How far back do you want me to go here? Because you mentioned some people haven't played for quite some time.
Well, okay, so obviously before we started this, we kind of wrote down some bullet points, so I'm not even going to try to, nonchalantly read them as if I'm, doing these on a whim. So, first of all, tell us in your own words what exactly is happening, like in this series of events, and because of the speculation, what's the reason for this sudden decision to just, straight up end the Gallic War? Because it's been happening for such a long time that for many people they associate disco with the whole Gallic thing. So a step away from it is kind of a big freaking deal.
Right, and that's as someone who's been playing since 2008. That's kind of an alien idea for me because I actually remember Discovery without Gallia, but that's tangential. I won't get
Wasn't
into it
that a
right now.
nice time?
It had its ups and
Loaded
downs.
question.
Had its ups and downs. We'll get back to that one. But as for what is currently happening, specifically happening, Gallia has advanced on the Bretonnian capital of New London, as in the planet, not just the system, but the planet. They currently have a fleet encircling and laying siege to planet New London, and there's an ongoing event, Forced Hand, in which Gallia and Bretonnia are duking it out in orbit of the capital. And the event is live right now. Anyone who wants to join in, eligible IDs, and you can find those listed on the forums in the event thread. Obviously, Britannia Armed Forces and Liberty Navy, or well, Liberty Navy too, but Britannia Armed Forces, Liberty Navy, and Gallic Royal Navy can all score points and earn cash for kills right now. So that's currently what's going on. But I think it's a bit more of a prelude to the next 2 events, which are going to be a lot more story-oriented, and they're going to be shorter things. They're not going to be week-long stretches like this is. They're going to be, okay, this is happening at these hours. And while we are on the topic, very important to point out, the event thread has not gone live yet, but next weekend, August 17th, 1900 to 2100 server time, is going to be the most climactic battle of the war. And that event is going to take the mod's title of Pyres of Remembrance. So August 17th, 1900 to 2100, that's Pyres of Remembrance. It's the battle of the war. You will want to be there. Without spoiling too much, you will want to be there. And I think that the title of the event and the mod's current splash screen should tell you pretty much what you need to know about that.
F. A lot of pressing
yes.
F. It kind of makes me.
I'm pressing F right now. You can't.
So again, for someone who has been around before Gallia thing, when we introduced Gallia, we had this huge event in a separate server where you had the ability to create any ship you want, because it had to be on a separate server because of the server load and the amount of people playing it out. You remember the whole Gallic 3-way thing?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
The highlight of that was the fact that it had these restarts that would give you a fully decked out capital ship. Like, you could get a cruiser, a battleship, whatever. And it kind of makes me wonder, with our current server mechanics, is there any chance that you could guys implement some sort of like temporary characters that would be only available for this event? So that the people who might not be around for disco for this whole, this last few years or months or whatever, maybe they didn't like the Gallic thing, maybe they weren't interested in the Gallic thing, but they can still help us send this whole focus off with a bang by providing them with, server assets they wouldn't usually have.
I'd like to. I really, really would. But I don't think that's something we're confident doing without having it isolated on its own server. And unfortunately, I don't believe that we currently have anyone trusted enough to actually run that kind of a server right now.
Just run it on the same box.
Trusted enough and, having the hardware. Okay, so running it on the same box. As some of you might recall, back in 2008, 2009, the server box actually ran in a guy's kitchen, Maj KP. I'm not sure how
I
it's pronounced.
still have those pictures, by the way.
Right. So it ran in his kitchen. But the point is that it was a custom-built machine. Freelancer server, FL server, can only utilize one CPU core. So,
which in 2019 is obviously something that most CPU production, CPU creators are moving very fast away from.
Right, and what we are running on right now is a far weaker core. I believe it's clocked at something like a flat 3 gigahertz. It might be a little bit more, a little bit less, but it's not the 5, GHz beast that we had back then, single core. So I don't know how feasible that is. I could try talking to our tech guys about it. Wait and see, play it by ear, I guess, but as of now, there are no plans for that, no.
Okay. I mean, you still have time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, what do you say? Do we open up the AMA thread and start going through the questions? Or is... actually, let's take a look at the chat. Will the server die now since Gallia is going rip? Unless you fucking crash it.
Well, a couple of crashes here and there, probably. It's kind of par for the course, isn't it? It's Freelancer. But
yeah, it wouldn't be disco if you didn't crash every,
yeah. But we're striving to avoid that.
Am I dead yet? No? Yeah, 63.
63 disco?
Yes, let's
yes,
go
we
with that.
had I should mention, actually, well, we're up to 64 now, but I should mention that yesterday, without any events or anything going on, we actually managed to hit 94 players, which is pretty solid nowadays. So, an interesting thing about Disco's population is there are actually quite a few people who are still sort of involved in the community and stick around, but they're not all actively playing. I think we have like 500 people scattered across various Discords. So the people are there and they're just not playing. So it's kind of another topic, but I don't know, different strokes for different folks. Maybe once the war is over, there will be new opportunities. Well, there will be new opportunities, which might be more appealing to certain people who have kind of shied away from the whole ooh, big bad epic storyline thing that we've been doing for the past decade.
Let me quickly say, Alexander T, I have noticed you. I had to say that. Go on.
Oh, was it a PM in game?
No, it was a chant.
Oh, okay. Uh, anyway, yeah, I'm not sure there's much more to say on that topic. We are endeavoring not to kill the server. There are certainly going to be things to do once the war is over, and I believe that touches on a couple of the questions that were asked in the AMA thread itself.
Shall we just switch to that then?
Yeah, let's go ahead and switch over to that.
Okay, so one thing that we both agreed is that at first we were going to record this offline and kind of cherry pick the questions, but after that we kind of just like, just whatever, just go through them.
Yeah, I also ended up having a busy couple of days there, right about when we were going to start the AMA. So
Oh, yeah, definitely.
real life hit me right about the time we were going to start, as you recall. So that's why we kind of had to postpone things.
Well, not only that, it's like the more we start thinking about this, for a normal offline recording that isn't just you need me a little bit more planning than this, but
Yeah,
this is fine. This is cozy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So AMA.
AMA.
Probably easiest if you begin. You're the guy with two monitors here.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, and my current monitor is watching the chat. So
I see.
I need.
I have a phone. I have a phone.
Same here, actually. But yeah, go for it. I'll get there eventually.
We're experiencing technical difficulties.
Technical slowdowns. Yes. Is AMA going to be on this chat or on the forums? There is a dedicated thread in which you can still post, by the way. But I don't see any reason we should ignore any questions in the chat as long as they're, reasonable.
Yeah, we'll try to cover most everything that we can. That doesn't mean everything. It means everything that we can. There are certain questions I'm not going to be able to reasonably answer for various reasons, but I will endeavor to answer the big relevant ones. Okay, so I am looking at this thread now. Page 1.
Okay, I'm currently going... Oh my god. The front page of Discovery GC is amazing for a handheld device, but the moment I went into the forums like teeny eye strain no vision.
Yeah, the forums don't... Or I should say phones don't handle the forums well. But, I mean, considering we're talking about a PC game here, I don't think that's the most pressing concern.
Okay, so let's start with Mark Brown. Cool.
Yes, after the war, will Gallia still be part of Disco? So...
You know what? I really do realize that Gallia is the pineapple pineapple pizza topping of Disco, because there's people hating. Yeah, it's like hating Gallia is a meme, and other people are like, it's completely fine. Like, what are you talking about?
Well, I think for a while there, it was less of a pineapple on pizza situation and more of a situation where we kind of took the pizza and put it on top of a bunch of pineapples. It's a little bit lopsided.
Yeah, and then gave the pineapples freaking plot armor.
So, actually, this leads into a really good metaphor I can make here. We're not going to have the pizza on the pineapples anymore. We are still going to have pineapple on the pizza, which is to say, Gallia will still be around. It just will not necessarily be the focal point of Discovery.
I mean, that's fair. Any hints as to what the focal point is going to be?
Oh. Well, we're trying to move away from large, multi-year sweeping plot arcs.
Oh,
So
so we're not looking at like, just like we started Gallia in like 2009. Now we're ending Gallia like 10 years later in 2019. It's like, oh, are we going to just just figure something out for the next 10 years?
regardless of whatever people might say about Discovery's health or longevity, for the sake of my own health, for the sake of my own sanity, I'd rather not have to do that again. Uh,
I mean, no one
but
really cares about your sanity. They just want
oh
to
yeah, well
play a game.
that's fair. That's
They just want to
absolutely
play a good
fair.
game.
Well,
So,
anyway, to answer that question, to actually touch on that question, I could tell you about some plot hooks that we're going to be investigating. I cannot name any one specific focus we're going to shift to because as of now, that's not the plan. We are going to be seeing some new systems crop up in the Omicrons and the Tals. Now, before anyone loses their minds, we're talking about systems here which are intelligently designed, as in
effort.
they will not bypass bottlenecks. So we're not talking about spreading people out needlessly. We're not talking about making people impossible, interaction impossible to find, but we are talking about new content.
Got
And
it.
that's something a lot of players have been really asking for, and something that I don't think we've been able to deliver to the best of our ability as developers trying to wrap up the Gallic War.
So Christensen
Uh,
just commented in the thing, in before they make another house. I want to see freaking space Aussies, like freaking Mad Max, Australia, New Zealand on a junk ship. Just got here! Like, after all these freaking years in suspended animation, the freaking sleeper ship from Australia arrives.
it would be really, really amusing, but I don't think that we're going to suddenly see new populations of humans pop up out of nowhere. I don't think that's going to happen again. I don't think it's in the cards.
I mean, if
Uh,
I mean, Cryer can probably help with that. They get some pills with that. But yeah, next one.
right. Next question.
Okay, so next
My
one
phone
is
turned off for a
from
moment. Oh, okay. Go
Vovashai.
ahead.
I think I pronounced that name correctly.
I think it's Vovaishe, or I don't know. I have no idea.
The dude
Vova.
rode with the anime girls. Jokes aside, what BAF players will do after the war?
That's a very good question. And I can touch on
Invest
it a
in
little.
invest in the tent and mobile home market.
Oh, come on, come on. Well, unless we're talking about tents and mobile homes cropping up on Gran Canaria and Sprague, but
Do you think the zoners are going to be very happy of seeing them? They just try to freaking invade the planet. Wait, for those of us
well,
who aren't in the loop, tell them about the zoners in Gran Canaria.
okay. So I'm gonna cast a little bit broader of a net than that.
Bova
In
ish.
general, as Gallia has been infringing upon Bretonia's territory, has been taking more and more ground, Bretonia has been forced to spread out a little bit to the Omegas. And they have taken some significant holdings in Omega 3 and Omega 49, and that includes planet Gran Canaria, which, up until recently, for most of Discovery's history, was sort of a peaceful zoner stronghold. Well, stronghold might not be the right
And all
term, but
that changed when the
yeah.
Bretonians attacked.
Uh, I was going to say when the Tea and Crumpets Nation attacked, but
Oh yeah,
close enough.
close enough.
Yeah. So Bretonia is currently sitting on Gran Canaria and Sprague, which leads me into this question that Vova asked. And that is to say, I believe Bretonia will have a lot of explaining to do in the Omegas, and
Freaking
some of that explaining might have to be done in certain cases with guns.
I can just imagine the freelancer like serious version of the Treaty of Versailles, just with more guns. I mean, they could invite the freaking Junker Congress with their hand cannons if they want,
Oh
tips on
boy.
that.
But there is another thing I want to mention, and that is that. Actually, how much can I say about that? It's really interesting having to come at this from the standpoint of How much of this can I talk about with the
Well, see,
community?
here's the thing. I'm going to quickly step in. I think what actually is being asked here is that all the people who have bought Bretonian assets, especially when it comes to capital ships, and now their primary focus is basically concluded, or at least is being hinted at as not being the primal focus anymore. What are those players supposed to do with these things?
Well, that's kind of what I'm getting at. Is there's we have plans for the Omegas. There are going to be things to do in the Omegas. There are also going to be things to do elsewhere, which might offer a little bit more story intrigue, so to speak. But I can't really comment on them at this time. The Omegas, though, will absolutely be a point of contention. I see no way that they could not be with the war concluded. So I
Fair
think
enough.
that concludes that.
What is next for Gallia by Shaggy? I think we basically went over this during the intro. Oh, we have a
Well,
cloak ship.
I'm not terribly concerned about it. But
Fu-
then again, I'm also cloaked.
Yeah, well, you are cloak, so I'm just going to pick direction and fly because
Yeah,
I'm
just
fast.
fly towards the black hole. It'll be fine. But
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah. I
so
mean, I'm
what is
still
next for
faster. I'm
Gallia?
still faster than whoever it is.
Right. What is next for Gallia? And we've kind of sort of touched on that, yes. Uh, but all we really said was Gallia will still exist. So Gallia is going to have to focus on itself for a little while. That's all I'm going to say about that. And I think that's probably obvious to everyone at this point, is that Gallia will have a lot of cleaning up to do in one way or another.
Oh, I just gotta. Well, wait. Let me just. I'm adjusting. You'll see this on the live stream screen in like 40 seconds for you. Beautiful,
Well,
frickin' beautiful. Okay,
the viewers will. I won't.
yeah.
But yeah.
Well, So, yeah. Someone actually just I wanted to put in the Discovery needs a cash for clunkers sort of thing. That if you have invested in huge amounts of stuff that you're probably not going to use anymore because the story focus has shifted, perhaps some sort of trade-in deal would be preferable. Maybe. But yeah, I think the next one is by Diamond One. Will NPCs be used in any sort? Okay, will NPCs be used in any sort of way to counter any possible unfair advantage to a certain side in these upcoming Gallic events, if possible?
Well, I think we've already kind of done that. And that is in the sense that we have provided safe
What
zones
am
for
I
both the.
flying through? I just checked my monitor. What am I flying through?
Are you curious about the asteroids or the nebula puffs?
Yes, I just picked a random direction and started flying,
Oh,
and
well, this is
that's
a
just
lot bad.
party. This is party.
Well, yeah, it's a nice system.
It is.
Zalrock does good work, but I think we're kind of sidetracking a little bit here. What was the question? NPCs?
Yeah.
So NPCs. NPCs in the sense that NPCs which, buzz around you and shoot you, probably not. NPCs in the sense of bases, yes, and that's something we've already done. As the allies, and I always want to say allies and Axis whenever that particular terminology comes up, but the allies and royalists both have safe spaces to group up in New London, which are guarded by mortar platforms. So, in that sense, yes, NPCs are allowing people to gather so those people can coordinate and engage in combat on their own terms. We're it doesn't currently fall into our game philosophy to actively interfere with ongoing PvP, so we wouldn't want to have NPCs start spawning in the middle of PvP or anything. But we feel that it's important to give people a chance to group up first, so that's something we've definitely made an effort to do.
Yeah, I think that back when I used to do events, NPCs, I think we already proven that NPCs just cannot really be, like, efficiently adjusted against players because
They can't, and I really wish they could,
yeah,
but it's the reality of the engine that
it's
they
it's
currently
out
have.
it's currently outside the scope of the mechanics that we're stuck with. The next question from the same dude is: will the Uncharted systems ever return?
Well,
Have you even touched that thing?
up until recently, and this is kind of an interesting and embarrassing fact, but up until recently, there was still the jump hole to Uncharted Kusari, and Cameron and I didn't actually know about it. None of the team knew about it. So I think it was the GC or the BD, one of these new factions, discovered it recently. We were like, oh hell, that's still here. So what we've currently done with that is we removed the jump hole, and we're currently touching the system up a bit because it was a little bit sloppy. So Uncharted Kusari is certainly coming back since we've already taken efforts to kind of spruce it up a bit. Well, not necessarily spruce it up, but clean it up. I think it's quite likely that we will be seeing that sort of mechanic in the future, especially now that, as I said, we're not so focused on, oh, it's Gallia, everything has to be about Gallia until it's not about Gallia anymore. So, with that out of the way, yes, I think that's a distinct possibility.
Okay, will the barge ever become a playable ship besides SRP?
I think that falls outside the scope of this AMA.
Did you actually
I'd love to
reintroduce the
comment on it
barge?
sometime. Oh, well, here's the thing. The barge is currently being used actually by Gallia as a dockable base in New London, and they also have one in
Gallic stole my
Aquitaine.
barge!
Yes, they Gallic stole your barge. They also have one in Aquitaine, formerly Edinburgh. Uh, wow, that's another thing. Gallia has officially annexed Edinburgh,
Oh,
so there's that.
I never liked that place, so they can keep it for I. Oh, okay. Okay,
Uh,
so the
a
next
couple
one,
of people are quite irate about that, but
I'm
anyway.
sure they do. And finally, will there ever be a way for a proper way to put money into something instead of scientific data that can be beneficial for everyone since Disco has a massive surplus of cash on hand? Oh, I'll
Again,
try
I
not to comment on that. I'm so fucking upset with what you did with science data.
again I think that falls outside the scope of this AMA.
You're not
I
supposed to
also
give guns for them! Jesus fucking
I
Christ. Yes, okay, next one. I'm s-
that falls outside the scope of this AMA. Also,
I
was
like
that taken from the forums? Because I don't remember seeing that post.
it's the one by Diamond, it's the third one. So
Okay.
Sombra is asking, are there serious plans to turn Nomads or Gamu AI into NPC only factions? And if yes, for what purpose?
Okay,
That
so
was a noise.
again, outside the scope of this AMA, but I will touch on it because, this is stuff we could potentially start thinking about after the war. Uh, Personally, I think there would be some merit in that. I think that it may perhaps have been a bad idea to allow players to participate in those factions in the first place,
Yes.
but I don't necessarily think that the smartest thing to do would be to close off options that players currently have.
I think you need to give a chance to use a AI IFF so that you can use the AI roleplay and apply it to existing IDs. So, for example, you have a Liberty Navy ship, for example, right? You could do a command that similar to the pirate command that slaps a AI tag on you. But the thing is, if this is if it's made in such a way, there could be an overabundance of the same kind of roleplay, and that would probably be problematic. I would say that, actually, considering I haven't been playing for 2 years, I don't know the current situation of things, so I will probably refrain from commenting. Also, I highly suggest you check out the chat because people are asking questions there, and I need you to
I
see it.
will have a look at it.
I need you to see it. Snake Lancer is asking, with the Gallic War ending, would the old NAPs and alliances be done?
Uh, So first of all, I'm not sure why that's dressed with Matt Spavard. That's
That's
really not me.
I think he's trying to like ping.
Just get one of ours attention. Yeah,
Yeah.
I get it. Okay, so I think it's quite likely that you will see a lot of those naps and alliances begin to break down. I hope that they do, because
Wow.
that would currently be quite awkward if Gallia were to simply disappear, or if Britannia were to simply disappear. I mean, obviously, neither of those things are happening, but what I'm trying to say here is the war is ending. And with the war ending, you would see some very awkward status quos, is what I'm trying to get at here. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. Okay, so the thing is, we're currently running at 30 minutes, and we're only at post number 7. So I think that in most multi-post questions, we're gonna take the first question and just roll through them like that. Otherwise,
Okay,
it's
there is one in the chat that I want to touch on though.
go for it.
Which is disco worth coming back to? How's the situation with vets being rude to newcomers? That's, again, it's outside the scope of the AMA. There's going to be so many of these. And to reiterate, this is an AMA about the end of the Gallic War, which is ask me anything about the end of the Gallic War. I do think Discovery is certainly worth coming back to. I think that in a lot of ways we're more welcoming to newer players than we were quite a while ago. We've gotten a bit more lax with certain things, and there's the returning veterans package, which has been a framework for a couple of years now, which allows people to come back who have played previously. Yes, thank you for that. That was probably
That
one of
was
the best
my only good contribution to the frickin'
Yeah.
server.
Well, I wouldn't want to say that.
No,
But my
I'm
point is,
paraphrasing.
we have a nice framework in place for returning players to come back and get started in the game a lot more easily.
I also think with the changes to the staff and with the general, just how little bullshit people are willing to deal with these days, I think if someone saw Ved being, like, very mean to someone new, they would be very quickly
Oh, I would be
booted.
irate. I would be irate. Peter Chan, will New London burn? The mod title is Pyres of Remembrance. That's
I think the
my comment
splash
on
screen
that.
is very telling of that.
Moving on.
Moving on.
Let's try to address the thread, because the people in the thread have been waiting for quite some time.
The shooter's asking.
Also, I'm wondering. No, I'm just wondering if we need to turn around at some point. Oh, we turned around. Thank you. I was concerned about that.
Yeah, we were 200 and something. Like we were halfway to the edge of the galaxy.
You will want to use your nanobots.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thank
anyway,
you.
Shooter is asking,
will Gallia stay in Disco? If Gallia won't stay, how will the immense amounts of ships' assets the people have handled, especially the capital ships? This, I think we already touched that it's not going anywhere, and that whatever you said about the thingy.
everyone will have something to do, and people's investments will not be wasted. That's pretty much my response to that.
I'm going to quickly answer to one of the questions in the chat. Dragomir STO is, do you think we should have none playing admins? As someone who used to admin for a year, I would say none playing admins is not a choice. It's the result of the way that things are, like the amount of work that Disco generates, and the people who have the most spare time usually have to deal with all of that, and they become the non-playing admins.
I have got to interject here. All of our staff members currently play. All of our active staff members are currently also active in game.
That sounds terrible.
With the exception of maybe Alex, and he's our FL Hook guy. Loken, Dennis, Cameron, myself.
I'm not saying that anyone from the current team is not playing. I'm just saying that in the past, I can see how that happens.
Has been an issue. Yeah.
Okay. Next one. I have to enlarge this thing so I could read the name. Did I just fly into a sun?
No,
No?
no, you're definitely not in the sun. We're
Okay.
nowhere near this. Wait, there's no sun in this system.
Okay, that's nice to know. It just said that, oh, I'm entering I just entered some zone.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah.
J&B is asking, is there going to be a straight white peace? As in, Gallia will retain its gains, or will Gallia sue for peace, offering to return Bretonian systems?
Okay, so I said this at the beginning of the conclusion of the Gallic War arc back in November of last year, when 4.91 originally released, that we will not be seeing a return to status quo. We are going to be seeing borders shifting. It's not going to be a milquetoast ending in which everyone gets their stuff back and we all go back to square one. That's not how things are going to work. Now, obviously, there has been some speculation as to what that may look like. I don't want to comment on the accuracy or lack thereof of those speculations. But to answer the question, no, there will not be a straight white piece.
Okay, next one. Commander Crucible. Will the dev team redirect focus to other sections of Sirius, namely the Omegas or the Omicrons, or will the dev team distribute themselves to help out factions across Sirius, as the total prime focus has been Gallia and Bretonia for a good while now? And I'm going to add my own question here. Are you making sure that the whiplash effect is not going to happen where we've seen so much more focus on Gallia and Bretonia now that the war is over? Both of these sections are abandoned by design because everyone is so careful not to put too much attention into them before someone calls out, "You just ended the war, why are you still doing things to them?" Which is,
That's absolutely not going to be the case. We have plans to
new
try
player,
to,
finish Geoff's model.
for
Okay.
fuck's sake. Hi, Sombra.
Hi,
Anyway,
Sombra. I just entered
departing
a
player, finish Geoff's model. That's not how that's pronounced, but anyway.
Well, I mean it's Sombra, so he's
Uh,
he's too busy getting tipped off for the locations for all these things to type correctly.
uh, moving on. So this question by Crucible.
Hmm.
Uh, how exactly was it phrased again?
It was, will the dev team redirect focus to other sections, or will the dev team distribute themselves in factions? The focus.
So I kind of feel like the answer to that is neither. The latter is closer, but instead of focusing in on factions, we're going to be focusing in on regions, I think is kind of how we want to approach this.
That's probably for the best.
So,
If you're focusing on a region, you're probably focusing on every single faction in the area with a zone of influence.
right, but my point is this. Before Gallia, we kind of had a system in which there was much more passive activity. And now you can make a very strong argument for passive activity being necessitated, or rather, that passive activity necessitates a high player count as an activity that's not event based or based
Yeah.
around a large war, etc. Now, I kind of disagree because I feel that Gallia came in and stole a lot of thunder from a lot of factions' agendas from their roleplay, especially like all the NAP stuff that we were talking about earlier. Lots of factions have lost their identity due to Gallia.
I
So
think that it's kind of this. It's not just Gallia though.
no, it's not just Gallia. You're right. So the end point I'm trying to make here is that we really want players to be able to focus in on their own sort of activity and do their own sort of thing without as heavy a level of development involvement that we have been doing. And let me be clear, that's not saying player driven storyline. That's not saying let the players run the storyline. That's
Yeah, that
me
sounds that's
saying
terrible.
there's
That's
lots of
terrible.
stuff. There's lots of stuff that players can do on their own without us having to hold their hands and micromanage everything. And we're going to aim to create a universe sort of akin to the way things were before the Gallic War, in which everyone kind of has their own thing to do instead of kind of having to vie for our attention and tug on our sleeves, as it were. Does that make sense?
I mean, it does. I'm
Okay.
gonna very quickly inject one of the chat questions here. That guy's asking, can I have the name Asco Fiasco back? Well, I mean, there were 2 ships. You can ask the other owner.
Uh,
It's a
you
joke.
can also be the Fiasco Asco.
You can always be the Heavy Cream Wet Dream. That lasts for like
There was
2
the
weeks.
old Gaian gunboat with 3 razors. It was Mara's ship, I believe, Nature's Climax. But anyway,
What about Kruger Gaswagon? We don't talk about Gaswagon.
we, we,
Oh.
we don't talk about Prussian Blue either.
Oof.
Anyway,
Next one. I think someone is still vibrating about your commission in the chat. You might as well just address that.
it really falls outside the scope of this AMA. What I will say is that Jeff and I are in communication regarding said ship. And as it's a contract between Jeff and I'm pretty sure that's all that needs to be said on that matter. That's really all there is to it.
Well, it looks like
I'm not
Jeff
really
has
obliged.
Jeff has gotten himself a advocate. No, whether or not Jeff knows that he is an advocate, that's a different question. But there we go. Next one.
Jeff is very well aware of the current situation. Anyway, next question.
Next question. By Daniel Freeman. So, what will be the next war? What if Gallia wins the war? What will happen with Bretonia? Could we expect more systems or derelicts for Psalms to find again? I already make that joke. And the best question, will you please say hi to Spazzy in my name? Thank you. Durandal, would you like to...
Hi, Spazzy!
Hi, Durandal! Oh, I mean, hi, Daniel.
Anyway, now that we've gotten that out of the way, easiest question there, systems, derelicts, yes. Those 2 things, we will certainly see more of those. I've already answered systems. Derelicts we've been wanting to do for months. So, hard yes to both of those things. Next war after Gallia.
Stay tuned to find out. Stay tuned for the next episode of Dragon Ball's Discovery Freelancer and find out.
Next war after Gallia. I'm probably going to have to decline to comment on that one.
Let's spin the wheel.
As I keep saying, there's going to be things for everyone to do. So, moving onwards.
By Lithrelux. Would the dev team be interested in an Omega/Omicron system rework if that can be outsourced?
I've already seen this one. This falls way outside the scope of the AMA.
So that's a no, right?
It falls outside the scope of the AMA.
Discovery Ball Z. I just wanted to ask, please tell Geoff to stop being a Mega G. No, this isn't a question, but it's important. Okay, so the next one. By Durandal. This AMA is about... Oh wait, that's not a question, is it? Moving on. Prometheus. What has staff learned... Oh, I love this question. I think
this is a great question. I love this question.
This is all yours. What has staff learned from the Gallic War, and what do you hope the players have learned from it? What was your favorite event or story beat involving the Gallic War?
My favorite story beat involving the Gallic War hasn't happened yet.
Oh, I'm worried. I'm worried now.
Yet.
I was curious before. I'm straight up freaking worried now.
Yeah, hasn't happened yet. So, stay tuned. What has the staff learned from the Gallic War? Well, I would say the big one, of course, is don't finish something you're not willing to start.
Don't start something that goes on for 10 years.
That was some very interesting dyslexia on my part. I got that completely backwards.
Yes.
Don't start something you're not willing to finish.
Someone put that on a t-shirt. Start freaking discovering merch, and this is going to be the first t-shirt, design.
Yeah, don't start something you're not willing to finish and just have a, that and a big old valor on the shirt. But
beautiful.
Anyway, so That's a big one. To home in on that a little bit, massive epic plot arcs in which we have to micromanage everything and drag things out over years and years and years, they drain us. They're really, really, really friggin' draining. Uh, we're going to have to rewrite so many info cards for 4.92, and it's all the result of this one war. And it's a level of investment that not only can the current dev team not really reliably do it, I don't think anyone could. I think that's what led to so much burnout in the past with previous teams. Uh,
Just the
so
sheer scope of stuff.
yeah, the sheer
Like,
scope of stuff.
you just said, oh, info cards. And people like think, okay, this is text, but the amount of text that is expected for freelancer is
We don't have rumors
staggering.
anymore. We don't have
Yeah,
rumors
as like for
anymore.
example, rumors. How would a new player who just enters Disco, how would he find out how the Outcast became neutral to the Bretonias? If not for info cards and rumors. And someone has to write that. And that is just one example. Like the sheer amount of work in that regard is staggering. And we're not talking about new content. We're talking about the side
Yes,
content that is
it's
generated
mostly
as things get added.
it is mostly house cleaning. I would say a good 75% of our info card work is housekeeping. It's keeping up with the times. It's not writing new things, it's not doing cool new stuff, it's housekeeping. And not only does that take a lot of our development capacity, not only do we not have the throughput for all that work, but it's also boring. It's not the work we want to be doing. It's not exciting. Uh, and I mean, obviously, that's not an excuse. You know, part of this job is doing boring work,
Mm.
but it's difficult. So yeah, trying to avoid massive, massive years long ongoing plot arcs with superpowers, probably the biggest thing we've learned. Other
Justin,
things we've learned.
someone just
Sorry.
instantly obvious. So this is a question that is going to pop up instantly in this case. Hello, yes. Is the dev team recruiting for info cards? Are you
Uh
willing to give the community, like the average community member, power over lore? Rumors, I would say yes, because then if someone types something stupid in, you can always go back to the idea that yes, that's what a rumor is. It's not supposed to be 100% true, but info cards in general.
okay, so here's how this works. There's an info cards team and a story team. And the story team kind of passes on the information to the info cards team. Okay, here's what this is. Here's a general outline. Go write it. So that's how that works. Are we hiring for info card writers? Yes, conditionally. And those two conditions, now one is subjective, not everyone's going to be happy about this. But of course, one of those conditions is, are you someone we can trust with this position? Are you going to cause problems on the team? Are you going to focus too much on your own stuff? Are you biased? So that's obviously one concern we
I
have.
mean, everyone's biased. Thurzul's
Well,
actually
are you overly biased? I should say. Uh,
bias plus
but
plus.
I was not done here. I've got to finish this last part. Is that we are only hiring native English speakers. They have to be native English speakers. We've just had too many experiences
Aww.
with people who are not, and having to take a lot of our time out of our development cycle to proofread info cards. So
I
native
think
English speakers and people who aren't overly biased.
I think one of the things that we need to kind of touch upon here is that the whole thing about Disco and why Freelancer is such a good roleplay platform is that not everything is written out. There's enough holes that the player's imagination is, by necessity, invited to fill out the gaps. So perhaps, apart from the very necessities. Nope! Apart from the necessities, you kind of need to, not worry too much about the info cards, maybe.
Okay, so this is actually something, this is a really interesting topic because this is something we talked about when the dev team had a pretty major change in power structure last year, and that is that the previous development team, I should say the previous lore team specifically, put quite a lot of emphasis on being very explicit in info cards, explicit about the details.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been trying to make a shift to being more implicit about things than explicit, because I believe that's a good thing for exactly the reasons you just mentioned.
I think
So we've
that
been trying to
overall it
move
kind of
towards
needs to
that.
be you're entering a theater and you're giving a small card, which is a info card, huh? Huh? And it's not a freaking light novel. It's just a small list, small summary, right? That's how
Right.
it should work. But obviously, in a perfect world. Anyway, we just got a little bit too sidetracked for that.
A little bit, yeah.
Churro is asking, will this spark a revival of the Tau War? Joking, but not really. Best war.
So, first of all, best war. Chimeras versus Templars, best war. Uh, I mean, thankfully, Kusari is a little bit more balanced nowadays, I think. But, well, it's an interesting question. Like I said before about wars, you know, wait and see. We have plans for everyone. Uh, as to whether or not that explicitly will happen, I couldn't comment.
Okay, next one. So by I just fucked up. Let's go back
Well, it's
and
obviously by someone, so you couldn't have, messed that up too badly.
no, it's okay. By ready, will there be a Bretonia after the war? Will
Um,
King Charles remain sovereign head of state afterward when BBC?
First of all, turn around right now. We're 300 clicks from the center of the system.
Oh, that's good. We have 200 more clicks to go.
Well, I'm turning around. Anyway, can you rephrase this?
Pause!
Can you rephrase this question by? Well, not rephrase. Repeat this question by ready.
Will there be a Bretonia after the war? And I guess we kind of need to be interpretive with the question here. Like, will there be a Bretonian as we know it as a house after the war? That guy's asking me to tell Justin to check Discord.
If this is about Jeff's ship, I'm gonna scream. Who was
Scrim.
asking? Because I've only got like 20 messages waiting.
That guy.
Uh,
How descriptive!
that's not useful to me at all.
Good.
In fact, I can't really like what's the avatar here?
I wouldn't be able to
Yeah,
tell you.
I can't.
I'm
I
squinting at
have
it.
no idea who that guy is, so I can't help.
Well, I mean, you did
Uh,
technically check Discord, so come back to me now
okay.
and
Well,
answer to Altsec's question when you're done with the Bretoni after the war thing.
I'm gonna pop open the Ready's post myself because we've gotten a little bit sidetracked here. Ready. Where are you? My favorite Indian.
Ready?
Will there be a Britannia after the war? Yes. Uh, will there be a Britannia after the war? After a fashion. Will King Charles remain sovereign head of state after the war? Also, after a fashion. When BBC? August 11th, 2018. 2019. 2018, I
2018.
wish. Yeah, right.
I mean, it would have
Time
probably been
flies.
better. Yeah. So, next one, the more we go into this, and we're about to hit the 1 hour mark, I think that we will need to do this in 2 parts.
I mean, I'm good for a while. I'm not sure about you.
We are, but the watching now is currently going down, so people are drawing the line at 1 hour.
Hmm. Well, do we want to wrap this up, or do we want to? I mean,
I
it's
I
better
would
for me.
say let's finish this one page. I'm using the standard, so the last
Hmm.
one here is from Karst. So Karst, Cowden, Anton, and Alstek.
it's okay. All right, let's finish the page. I'm just thinking it's really better for me to do this all in one go, but okay. Outzek. Will Britannia actually survive the war? We've answered that
Uh,
after a fashion. Uh, if so, in what form? I can't comment on that. Will the council take New Paris? If so, what happens to the royalists? Again, these are all really specific questions that I can't comment on. What will happen to Provence? I can't comment on that.
look at the last one from his post. I think that one you might go into detail if you want, or at least with
Well,
speculation. Because that's kind of interesting. Will Malta received more successes
right,
in being
right, right.
recognized as a legitimate nation?
So this is an interesting question. I agree. This is actually something that the development team has talked about. It's an idea that we've thrown around. I can't give anything concrete on it at the moment. I will say from my own personal perspective that I could see some merit in it. It doesn't not make sense. So there is that. Antoine's next question is not a question. So we're on to Kuden.
Mm-hmm.
Kuden? Will Britannia break Sydney Accords and try to annex Coalition and Omega Space as well?
I don't see why not. If only they
Well,
had the people to do that with.
like I said, Britannia
Is going to have a
in
bad day.
in whatever form Britannia is around will be very involved in the Omegas. So that's as far as I'm going to go with that. Karst, he's asking Prometheus's question and adding to it, what lessons have been relevant to the development team and or the player base in regards to cooperation and communication? Okay, this is a big one. This is a big, good question. So what we have learned, the number one thing we've learned from interfacing with the player base is that interfacing with people one-on-one is really nice when you can do it, but you cannot depend on it because we do not have the throughput for dealing with such a large community. And I know it sounds odd to say Discovery is a large community, but in the context of dealing with everyone's wants and concerns, it's huge. So we are endeavoring to set up a framework which will allow the community to communicate in a much more official, well documented fashion on certain subjects. Most notably, roleplay canonization requests, which are a lot like it's basically taking a lot of the stuff that happens in the various story chats right now between faction leaders and the development team and condensing it into a request rather than an ongoing discussion, especially since that can cause a lot of drama with other faction leaders, and it just tends to get long and drawn out and not really go anywhere, and things stagnate because of that, and things, more importantly, get lost track of, and that's a big issue. And the only real way to start keeping track of things better is to have an official documentation of it, and the best way to do that is through a request format. So, I think that concludes that one. So we're at the end of that page. I'm not sure if we want to wrap it up. What do our viewers think? I'm curious about what our viewers think. Should
Well,
we wrap this up and pick it up another time, or
I'm saying to wrap it up and to pick it up another time because this allows people to post more questions now that they see that they are being addressed, and
oh
perhaps to
boy,
condense condense the.
we'll never run out of questions. This will
I mean,
be
that's probably a good thing if we can do this like once every month or every 2 months.
bottomless AMA, huh?
Fuck yeah.
That's
It's
that's terrifying.
like Dev Talk. There you go. You can do it yourself. You don't need me for that.
Oh. So now I don't need you for it. Now I'm on my own, huh? Is that
Well,
how
I
this
mean,
works?
you never really needed me. It's just that the most of the old player base that aren't playing still are subscribed to my channel. That's why I wanted to bump this thing. Because again, as I already talked to you in private, I told you that presenting the whole end of the war as a closing chapter and the promise for something new other than Gallia is a huge deal, especially for returning players, returning veterans who just
Right.
were, disinterested in the whole Gallic affair in general.
I mean, as the title here says, this is the end of an era. It's the end of the Gallic War. We have people playing Discovery now who don't know a Discovery freelancer without Gallia, and it's mind-boggling to me. But the reality of it is that's the way things are. So we have older players who I really, really hope are going to be interested in seeing what Discovery is like and whether it can make a return to its former glory, if that's the way you want to look at it.
Mhm.
Its former identity before being the big war story. So we have older players who are interested in that, and I hope that they are willing to log in, reinstall the game, give it a shot, see what things are about these days.
Um, that actually does remind me for a second. Someone put this up. Considering that new one game that is basically a knockoff of Freelancer on Steam, and it's still there.
Oh,
Um,
are you talking about
yeah,
Underspace?
I wasn't going to name drop it, but there you go. Would you say that including the game assets in the mod, so people don't need to hunt down for the ISO, is do we
Okay,
care
so
about the risk at
we
this point?
we don't make people hunt for the game. We have a link to the ISO on our forums. Note that I said a link to the ISO. We do
Yeah,
not
yeah,
host
yeah.
it
Of course, you
ourselves.
don't host it, but
So
basically, we're talking about 2019. Most gamers that new blood, they probably don't even remember how to install things from ISO. They're not from our time,
I
Justin.
don't think we're ever going to see vanilla freelancer assets bundled with Discovery. I think that's a can of worms that might be quite dangerous to open. But we do not make people hunt for the ISO. We have a full instruction set on how to install from the ISO and
No,
how
I
to
mean,
install,
it's just
you
that
know.
there's been many comments on my videos stating that the site that it's being hosted on is blocked by their country's ISP laws. So they need
Uh,
to go out through very fishy sites in order to try to find this abandonware.
okay, so first of all, I think we provide two links, and I'm going to double check that. One of them was added relatively recently, so that strikes me as unusual that it would be
This
blocked.
was maybe year ago when that particular
Okay,
question happened.
that was before we added that new link. I do not think that new link is blocked in any countries. So
Put
there
in
should
floppy
be an.
4 to continue the installation. God damn it, Sombra.
We're not going back that far, but
Are
I
we?
do think.
Distribute freaking. Let's host gatherings of disco peeps and distribute disco illegally on floppy drives.
Um, I have no interest in doing that. uh, Disco gathering, sure, maybe. I know some disco people who might actually be interested in meeting up. That's the thing. I mean, I've met people from Discovery before. Uh,
Disco needs merch. I
Discover,
want I want a Bargist on my t-shirt, man.
that would be pretty cool. But
I'd pay for that.
distributing Discovery on floppies, nah, I'm not about that lifestyle. Sorry.
What about Laserdisc?
Maybe. I was thinking more like Blu-ray, but it's not really
Sorry,
how this
zip
works, is it?
drive. Zip drive. Yeah, I think we're
Yeah.
wrapping up at this point. Isn't
Yeah. Oh,
Freelancer abandonware at this point? It's abandonware in the sense that there's no legal way to download it, but due to how copyright works, it's not going to
there is a
be.
legal way to sue over it.
Yeah, exactly. There's a
Yeah.
legal way to sue over. And just because there's no legal way to obtain the programming anymore does not mean that the right to the programming has been relinquished by the original creator or the sponsor.
Okay, so in summary, as we wrap this up, I want to say that for returning players, I think it's a great time to get back into Discovery. I think that this is a historic moment, that the opportunity to see the end of a decade long story arc uh, come to its conclusion is, I mean, it's crazy. How many stories go on for that long? So I think that is all definitely a reason to come back. And I think the opportunities for what comes after is definitely something that people will want to check out as well. It's something that I personally, as a developer, am interested in because I'm interested in bringing something to people for once that's not more of the same. And this will
There's
allow
a
us to
there.
do that.
So this is going to be the last question, and it's for me personally. Have you guys considered a developer-sponsored player faction that uses some sort of generic ID whose main role is basically roleplay school?
Huh.
So
No,
basically,
we have not.
or to give such a title, basically a title of being a newbie-centric, newbie-friendly um, faction as a reward or having some sort of status or some sort of meaning to existing factions. Because
That's really interesting.
if you specifically give handling an introduction, here's the thing: Disco alone is boring. You need someone to fly with. We're not talking about voice communication, we're not talking about TeamSpeak or Discord groups. You just need to be able to log into the game, check out, oh, is that guy still flying? I wouldn't have never gotten into Disco if it wasn't for the guy named Moonbase Alpha Logic, who would allow me to fly around. Like, I was flying around with him as he was running cargo in his hegemon, and he would pay me 1 million per trip as I just, escorted him in my Starflyer. Like, I wasn't flying in front of him, I was flying next to him, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna protect you, man. See, if it
uh,
wasn't for that dude, if it wasn't for that experience, I would have never stuck around. And I'm pretty sure
so
that the experience is very similar to everyone else. Type in the comments, like, anyway, but yeah, that's the idea. Either create a completely new faction that is basically flight school, that um, introduces people of the concepts of roleplay in general, or to give that mark of, quote, newbie friendliness to existing factions. Usually this is basically done by people going to the forum and asking, hey, do you like, what kind of faction do I join? And someone basically just goes, oh, join the name drop IMG. They are really good for new players because you roleplay centric in group chat. You also do mining, so you make money as a new player, so that's sort of the thing. But it needs to be, but as you can already expect, that is only available to players who come to the forum and post on the forum. It
right,
needs to be somewhere in the game that basically says, if you want to learn the basics. This was something that I was trying to do with the looking for group section on the forum, which I'm very glad people are using, by the way. But again, same problem. Needs to be a forum user. It needs to be in game.
yeah.
You don't need to
So
answer. You don't need to answer that now if you don't have any ideas for it yet. But it's something that I suggest you bring up. Do
right,
you want to?
that's
Yeah,
something I will bring up with the rest of the dev team then, because I mean I could speculate right now, but
yeah,
ultimately I have nothing concrete to give you. So yeah,
fair enough.
good talk. I think that about wraps this up. This has been, I mean, I think it's been a pretty good, enjoyable experience,
Hell yeah.
and I
Looking
look
forward for
forward
part
to,
two.
yeah, I look forward to part two. I look forward to concluding this, and I do mean concluding. I really don't want to have to do a bottomless AMA. That's kind of why this was about the Gallic War.
Welcome back,
But
everyone, to part 75. Today
oh
we
no,
have today we have Justin with us. Hi.
oh boy.
Oh,
Anyway,
the future is bright.
yes, thank you all for listening, and I hope to see you all in game.
All right, guys. This was nice. Take care.